trillions of dollars of factories are going to be built in America. That's huge GDP. The factories being built in America are huge.
That takes
GDP.
years, and you've said that robots are going to
take years. We have AI now. You fucking
so those
retarded.
aren't
No, it's really automated
jobs.
Exactly, it's going to be automated.
Factories,
Gosh,
automated factories, but the key is who's going to
for?
build the factories, who's going to operate the factories, who's going to make them work. Great American workers. You know,
You
we are
said
going to
robots
replace
on other
the
networks. You said
armies
that to
of
Fox.
millions of people. Well, remember the
And who's
army
going to be the
of
one controlling the
millions and millions
robots?
of human
Oh my God,
beings
que
screwing in
estúpida.
little screws to make
Oh my God,
iPhones. That kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America are high school educated Americans. The core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America. That's what's going to build our next generation of America.
Are you concerned in the time it will take for a company to move to America that it will benefit China in the immediate term, that other markets will look to other suppliers instead of dealing with the United States?
No, because we are literally the market.
That is ridiculous. The problem is everyone in the world sells to us.
Exactly.
Our economy is the consumer of the world. We are the only one with a trade deficit. The rest of the world has a trade surplus. Why does Europe have a trade surplus? Is there something about Europe that's special? Seriously, are they a different world than we are? Why are they selling $200 billion a year
Mr. Secretary.
more to us? It's because it's not fair. The rules are made not fair, and President Trump is going to fix them, and he's doing it for America. And
all right, we get it. Okay, so I'm fully in.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. All right, so before we get into JD Vance and that interview with JD Vance, we're only going to watch a little bit of JD Vance, and then we're going to get into some other stuff. So the argument that they're making is, oh, the stock market is down, so because the stock market is down, these tariffs obviously aren't going to work because the stock market is down. As if the stock market is what measures the wealth and prosperity of the country. And that's the problem, that we've been measuring the prosperity of this country by the, what is that, F1, 100 or whatever, those companies that are super rich. Jose, help me out here. I know you know what I'm talking about.
FRP?
Is
that FRP?
I don't know what it's called.
500, I think. FRP,
yeah,
500?
the Fortune 500 companies. There's a name for that. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. They're measuring the prosperity and wealth of the country by those companies. If those companies are doing good, oh, everybody's doing good. We're doing great. That's why for 4 years under Biden, when we were saying, dude, we cannot pay for steak. It's too expensive. We cannot do this. We cannot do that. We can't.
Are you talking about Fortune 500?
Yeah, but it has another name.
I don't know.
F whatever. Okay, doesn't matter. Yes, you see, Jose, you're awesome, bro. It's like
S&P.
He can like read my mind and shit. It's crazy. S&P 500. Thank you. Yes. So they measure the wealth of the country by literally how much money those companies are doing. And that just shows you they don't give a shit about the middle class at all. They don't care. Because the middle class, there's no, like, who cares what they're doing? If I'm not doing well and they're doing well, you're going to be like, well, who cares about you? They're doing well. That's what matters. No, what matters is the middle class. Because when you start not caring about the middle class, that's when socialism rises, from the darkness. That's when the young people start getting brainwashed with socialism. And they start saying, we need to tax the rich. Well, of course, they're going to say that when the media is literally pushing this fucking narrative that the only way to measure wealth is by looking at how much money the rich are making, instead of looking at how many jobs are being created by small businesses. That would make more sense. Or how many houses are middle class people able to buy? Or what's the cost of eggs or what's the cost of gas? Because the rich don't use any of that shit. The rich, I promise you, that lady does not do her own groceries. So she has no fucking idea that steak was $40 a pop for 4 years. Because she makes so much money that she does not have to go grocery shopping. It does not hurt her to see milk almost $10.
Yeah, skirt steak was like literally $40, $45, $50.
Okay.
About 2 years ago, a year ago. It was pretty bad.
Like
You pretty much were just like left with either chicken or pork.
yeah, if you didn't want to spend $40 on steak, I didn't.
Like
He
on
didn't.
2 slabs of not even like a lot of steak, just like on 2 slabs of steak. It was
And if you wanted to save
bad.
money, you have to go to freaking BJ's or Costco. And here in Miami, there's not many of those. So you already know, all the middle class people go there. So the lines are ridiculous. You're stuck there all day just trying to literally pay for your shit. I'm not gonna literally do groceries in 10 minutes and wait 3 hours to pay for my groceries. That's ridiculous. So the fact that they literally don't care about the middle class shows with the way they're reacting about the fact that the 1% has lost. Oh my God, there's $1 trillion have been wiped out of the market. Okay, so what? Sucks to be them. I don't care. Oh, but what about those who have 401ks? Can you look up really quick? I know ChatGPT is probably going to bullshit this, but Tim Pool made a really good point about this. I'm glad he did because I was going to look it up anyway. Look up how many Americans have a 401k. It's not even 50%. It's not even 40%. But regardless, I want ChatGPT to just to prove my freaking point here about the narrative that they're pushing ain't gonna stick. I mean, it shouldn't stick to anybody if you're a critical thinker. This is a channel for critical thinkers. If you actually are observing, if you're actually paying attention, if you're actively listening, then you shouldn't be freaking out about this. Straight up.
Well, it says approximately 42% of Americans are actively participating
Okay.
in a 401k.
What's
type program.
the approximately? That's what they're saying?
Yeah, approximately 42% of
Okay.
Americans.
So what's 40% in that's like what? I'm thinking of it in terms of like when for people to see
Like
it,
amount of people?
like 40% would be what? Like 3
You're talking about.
like put it in
I mean, it's almost half the population. So
but it's the way you're wording. How did you word it? Because the way Tim worded it is he noticed that it lied. It didn't give him the actual numbers. How did you word that?
I just asked her how many Americans have a 401k in percentage, like in percentages.
In percentage, 40K. I mean 40%.
Yeah, 42%.
Okay, whatever. Okay, so let's just go with 40% because the way he did it was different. I think he did it in a different way where it gave him different numbers. I think he came up with like 2/3 or something like that. Okay, 40%. Let's say that's almost half, but it's not half. It's 40%. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of people that are on 401ks. And those people that are 401ks are working for corporations. So what about those who are not working for corporations? What about those people? Those people don't matter? This is where I'm at with this. We're favoring big corp over small business. We're favoring big corp over middle class. The middle class people that are on 401ks, I don't even know what you're freaking out about. I have a 401k. Laz is a 401k. That's not all we have. But like, if you have a 401k, first of all, you shouldn't even be relying on only that because the stock market goes up and down all the time. But in the grand scheme of things, if you look at from like 5 years ago, the stock market until now, there's not much of a difference. So this dip that everybody's freaking out about, it's not even a big dip. It's not even serious. And again, it's going to go up. So people are literally freaking out over nothing. Absolutely nothing. Especially because guess what? Gas is going down. Price of X is going down. Price of steak is going down. I think we went to Winn-Dixie. What was the price of steak?
It went from
It went from
45 to basically like 20, more than half.
So what are we talking about? So because the rich pulled out, that's what happened. The rich pulled out, so people that have 401ks are freaking out because their stock prices are lower. Guess what? The rich pulled out because, this is my theory, they're pissed that for once we have a president that doesn't give a fuck about the rich. And he is rich.
For once we have a guy who's not just a talking head, he actually says what he does.
Because Obama
does what he says.
all this, oh my God, the middle class, we care about the middle class. That's why we have to do the ACA Act and we have to give them, we have to give them affordable health care. But he didn't give a shit about the middle class in reality because he bailed out banks. He didn't give a shit about the middle class. So when an actual president, which ironically is a billionaire, says, fuck you to the billionaires, I'm focusing on the middle class, all of a sudden now the elites in the big media and the Democrats are losing their shit about this. Oh my God, you see, he doesn't care about the middle class because the 401ks are going down as if the stock market is not going to go up again. It is. Look at what happened during COVID. Shit tanked. That was a real dip. COVID was a real fucking dip. And what happened? It went back up again. In fact, this is why I think this is all like bullshit. All right, check it out. So during the 4 years of Biden, we had inflation, right? Steak was $40 a pop, okay? So when we had inflation, what happens to assets like the stocks and real estate? It inflates in price. And we're still seeing it now, but not as much as before. So a house that in reality costs $300,000 is being sold for $600,000 with no fixes whatsoever because inflation is a thing now. So now I can sell my house for fucking double the price, and people are gonna buy it for whatever reason. I still don't understand why you would buy a house that's really worth $300,000, but you're buying it for $600,000. Why would you do that? It's a terrible investment. But whatever, people will do it. It is what it is. So the people that had a lot of money, which are the elites, literally made a shit ton of money under the Biden-Harris administration because they created inflation under the Inflation Reduction Act. Ironic, they literally pumped a shit ton of money into the market, inflated all the prices. Who benefited from that? The rich did. That's who benefited from that. So now we're going through a deflation. And now the people that benefited from the inflation are crying and whining because now they lost the money that they had gained. Well, sucks to be you, because at the end of the day, you have plenty of money to survive no matter what. The middle class don't.